Okay, so what I'd like to do is just begin. I'd ask everyone if they could mute their microphones right now, because we get a lot of feedback when we're
You're the
usually
president.
here in church.
Okay.
And if you would, when
It's
you
your
need
meeting.
to talk, then
You're the
just
president. They can
unmute.
hear everything we're
Hey,
saying.
Mary Ellen, Rini, if you could mute your microphone, please. Thank you. Okay.
Did not touch
Well,
it.
thank you all for being here tonight. I want to once again thank Laura and Deacon Joe from the diocese.
Is the volume up as high as it'll go?
Yeah. It is.
So what I'd like to do is just begin with a prayer, if I can. One of the things that I think if you've got the emails, and we're trying to work on, make sure that email
I can't hear anything, so.
is right. But one of the things that I was rather inspired, I have to say, this
Can't
week,
hear a word.
by
Hey, Father?
Ro-
We're not hearing you very well. I'm wondering if there's a way to up the volume a little bit on your end.
It's not us.
Let me try.
That's good.
Is this more my mic?
Is it on?
Is that better, Jim?
That's much better. Thank you, Father.
Okay, we might have to pass the mic over if need be. So I was rather inspired on Monday. I didn't have to celebrate Mass. I every once in a while, when I'm celebrating with Father Ryan, allow him to, celebrate Mass. And so the gospel was the gospel that I sent you a copy of, I think, in an email. So I'd just like to reread that and just share with you kind of the insight that I got, because what we're doing tonight really came to mind as I was listening to this gospel. So this is a reading from the gospel according to St. Matthew. No one patches an old cloak with a piece of unshrunken cloth, for its fullness pulls away from the cloak and tears and gets worse. People do not put new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the skins burst, the wine spills out, and the skins are ruined. Rather, they pour new wine into fresh wineskins, and both are preserved. When I listened to that reading, immediately I thought of not only tonight, but I also thought of our future here in Falmouth. And the reality is new wine is being poured into us. And we are blessed that there is new wine. We are blessed that God is giving us opportunities right now in our community. And yet, as the problem was in the gospel, sometimes maybe it's a challenge for all of us. Are we receptive to that wine, to that new wine? How do we receive that new wine? We're stewards of it. We're stewards of the graces that the Lord is pouring out to us. And so I think as we come together tonight, and I want to thank all of you. I think most of you had an opportunity to talk with Mary Lou and Steve and Jim and Frank. And the reason why we did that was after the last meeting, I really got a sense we weren't hearing everything. We were all politely listening to the diocesan officials and the pastor. And in order for this to really happen and happen well and happen successfully, it really is going to be all of us working together and helping one another to try to come up with the best way to receive this new wine. And so that's what, after talking with Jim and Steve, we had them call you to get some sense of how you, as leaders within our community and the different organizations,
Can't hear you at all, Father.
We can't hear you at all either.
It's like I think your mic died.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yes, we
now?
can. Yes.
All right, good. I don't have to repeat all that all over again, no. So the bottom line is there are some common themes that came out after soliciting your input, and it was valuable, because now we can start talking about how to move forward. We can't move forward until we're all, for the most part, and I hate to use the word comfortable because no one's comfortable, but for the most part, that we can understand and maybe address some of the issues. So tonight, I want to look at some of those common themes. This was a couple that came out to me, and then feel free to dialogue, because we're trying to clear the air tonight. Because here's the point, people. We've heard a lot about fake news, right? Almost up to here. All the fake news, everyone's fake news. There's fake news going on in Falmouth. There's fake news going on in the collaborative. Things that are just not right. They're not true. They're not accurate. And so that's why I wanted to have the leaders here, so that you can help me work through some of those things. And some of it is maybe because we haven't been clear enough. So that's why I want to kind of be as clear as possible. I want to give you an opportunity to address, well, what's going to happen with this? What happens? I think Joe, you brought up last time about what is this unification about? That's an excellent question. But I think there was a sub-question underneath it that didn't come out. Because some people feel with unification, it means that everything in the past is over. And that's not, where's my little thing to do that? Hold on. Okay, there we go. That's not true. It's building on the past. Some have been concerned in the unification process that, well, what happens to finances in the organizations and finances in the church? While we need to pull together a lot of that, each church will maintain some sort of its own pile, so to speak, to take care of its needs. Fake news, we're not bailing out St. Patrick's. The money that St. Patrick's owes is what's called, I don't know if I'm saying the word right, it was abeyance, which abeyance means they will not, they're not sending us bills for the debt of St. Patrick's. The only time we will pay for St. Patrick's is if any property belonging to the St. Patrick or St. Joseph Cemetery entity, which is theirs. I suppose St. Thomas too, could be included in that. If any of that were sold, and I've got an assurance now, and Danny, I think, is on here, and he can vouch for it. We received assurance from the Chancery that unification does not mean now they go into, they go into the money that's been accumulated at St. Elizabeth and St. Anthony and take the money to pay for St. Patrick. That's not going to happen. They've assured me that's not going to happen. If it happens, I'm out of here because that's not what was told to me. However, if we sell land associated with St. Patrick's, namely St. Joseph Cemetery, parts of it, there's enough land there to bury all of us for 1,000 years. But there's some land that's not usable there either. If we were to sell that out, and they've even said, I hate they, the Chancery has said, we don't even have to pay back the 100%. We can keep some of that money for operating. But in fairness, because there's a debt. So that's a story that's, you know, again, maybe I haven't been clear about that, but I want to be as clear as possible tonight because that's been a stumbling block for some people in saying, well, this unification is a money grab. It is not a money grab. I won't allow that. I won't allow that to happen. And the Chancery has assured me that's not going to happen. But the other things that I saw on this survey wasn't just about money. What some groups was about their individual, you know, like Men's Club has raised money for St. Elizabeth's. What do we do with that? I'm hoping, you tell, I got plenty of projects at St. Elizabeth's to do. The Women's Club at St. Anthony's said, well, we got money, what are you going to do with that? Well, I got plenty of projects at St. Anthony's. But going forward, these organizations need to work together so that it isn't for one parish, but it is for a new community. And the details of working together with the different, this is why we could have gone different ways. Trust me. There are different ways. You guys have known. Some collaborators have said, everything is canceled. Everything starts new. I would rather give you the opportunity to create new, to come together and say, we have a great men's club at St. Elizabeth. Could we make that a Falmouth community Catholic men's club that maybe meets at St. Elizabeth's? That's what you decide. I don't want to get into the weeds of that. But I just think it would be much more fruitful if the different organizations could come together and create a new wineskin. Am I idealistic? Am I unrealistic to think that? That's what I'm really hoping for, that we can, I mean, the reality is we'd all pretty much, all of us would like things to stay the way they are. But listen to how things are really. Almost every of these groups, declining membership, aging membership, no outreach. I heard that repeatedly in your reports. It's not going great. And here's our chance, I think, to make it great, rather than giving up, quitting, creating something new. John has worked hard this year in the past 2 years with the faith formation program. And we weren't sure how that was going to go. We didn't know if people, I'm not going to drive my kid here. We haven't had that problem. Of course, now we don't have a problem because no one's going anywhere. But the first year, people flowed with it. And I was surprised. Can you people hear me inside? You can hear me inside, all right? I'll come over by. No, so the one thing I was just going to say with that, it's just how we communicate to people,
It was better with two of them.
right? It's how we communicate these changes that are going to happen. For faith formation, that's a huge change. You're used to going to this place every, the same way every year. So that's all I have to say. It's just important how we kind of communicate these changes, and especially to your groups as well. How are you going to communicate and make it as easy as possible for people? Okay, so I mean, those are some of the things that came to my mind. But as I was talking with Laura and Joe, and I knew money was an important thing to talk about. I don't want to make this all about money, though, because the reality, it isn't. This past week, the bishop sent a letter to all priests announcing the opening of parish, the retirement of priests and the opening of pastorates. 7, I think it was. 7 are open. All of the vineyards open now, as of June. Nantucket, open. Provincetown and Wellfleet, open. A collaborative in New Bedford, open. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. If they sent a letter to priests, the parishes know. Everyone's talking about it. But these parishes, I mean, bottom line, that these parishes are available to the priests. It's about 7. There is 1 ordination this year.
He's not ready to be a pastor.
There's 1 ordination this year. And I think, Ryan, it says your mic died. I don't know what that means.
No, they were telling you that you.
Oh, Ryan, are you on?
Yes, I
Hello?
am. Hello, hello.
Hello there. Sounds like God speaking from heaven. It's kind of very nice, very nice. Oh, you even put your collar on. It's on his day off. Look at you. Yeah, it's probably the fake one like I use. But the reality is, Ryan, how many associates are there?
Less than 10 in the diocese.
Less than 10 in the diocese. So that means 1 ordination, less than 10. Let's say there's 8 associates for 7 places. So that means potentially within a year, we won't have an associate. I won't have an associate. I might not be here, but I mean, I'm saying this is part of the reality that we can wait until it happens, and it's happening, or we can now do something about it. We had 2 priests from our retired priests that just celebrated birthdays, 1 day apart. Father Finn and Father Mulvihill. They both turned 90. And they're doing well. They're doing well. They're doing well. But let's be real. How much longer can we depend on them? And I'm depending on them on a weekly basis. So all this in saying, the time has come. And it's not just the finance, it's not just so that we can pay bills and things. It's so that we can exist, but exist strongly, not petering out. When I hear groups saying declining membership, aging membership, no outreach, within 5 years, if we stay status quo, they're over. So let's rebuild. Let's create new wineskins, is basically what I'm saying. I'd like to turn it to you now. I mean, I gave my little blah, 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 but comments. These were wonderful. They were really helpful to us. Comments from the peanut gallery, the virtual reality.
Hey, Father Steve, it's Danny. I was just wondering, is there a way to mic up the people in the church so that we can hear their questions?
Yeah, why don't you get the portable mic in? Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Anyone on virtual have a question to ask or comment? See if you can unmute your mic, Steve Winthrow. See if you can unmute your mic. I don't know if I did it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, that's good. I didn't know if I had created this like wall that people couldn't speak. So is anyone in the peanut gallery? Are there any comments? Are there any questions that you don't think that need to be addressed? I'd like to address them tonight, because then we have to now start looking at, okay, what do we do? No one. Joe. Okay, good question, good question. So I'm going to repeat the question just because they can't hear it. Joe asked the question, the physical structures of each of the churches, will they remain the same or will they have a new name? In the understanding, and you guys have been doing this longer than I, what will happen is every parish, every church will maintain its name. So you will still go to St. Elizabeth Church, St. Elizabeth Seton Church. People will still have their wedding at St. Anthony's. People will still be buried from St. Patrick. The overall community, like we've called this now Catholic community of Falmouth, which is such a mouthful, I would suggest that when we unify, we look at a few names, like a name of a saint. I would prefer a name of a saint than some Catholic community of Falmouth could be something that you go for burgers practically, but saint whatever. I mean, I came up with 3 ideas.
How about the Holy Trinity?
There's one already, so that might be difficult. But we would have a committee to do this. But my idea was St. Stephen, the martyr. St.
Awesome.
Stephen of Hungary. Or St. Teresa of Avila. No, I'm only joking. No, we would have, when we would reach that point, we would have, so it would be the Catholic community of St. Be St. Joseph. Let's just say St. Joseph. St. Joseph, the year of St. Joseph. St. Joseph Catholic community, or St. Joseph Parish, okay? But I want to go to St. Elizabeth. There'll be St. Elizabeths, because that would be too confusing. If ever we became one building, which is not going to be in your lifetime or my lifetime, it isn't. I just think our community is so diverse, it's spread out, and we have functioning, good buildings. All three of them, all five of them are good buildings. And they each have a history to it, and I don't want to lose that history. And so my intent is to maintain and celebrate the histories of each of these places. But it's the more overall operation, the community needs to start thinking in terms of one faith community, so that when we have adoration in a building, it's adoration for the community. And we haven't got past that yet. And I don't know why we can't. We've tried for a year and a half. But when we, like Wednesday, we're having, is it Wednesday? Friday. We're having adoration at St. Patrick's for respect of life. The bishops have asked us to do adoration at respect, or do a day of prayer. If you listen to the wording of the announcements, I said the Falmouth Catholic community is asked to gather for a day of prayer at St. Patrick's. It's one community. Sunday masses, we're going to have some here. We're going to have some at St. Elizabeth, some at St. Patrick's. That will continue, and will continue for the foreseeable future, unless we reach a point that we can't service the amount of parishes that we have, or we reach the point that we don't need the amount of masses we have. Post-pandemic, we don't know what it's going to look like. We really don't know. Are the people going to come back? That's keeping me up at night right now. How are we going to get these people back? We're going to work at it, but they're not going to automatically come back after the pandemic. We're going to have to evangelize. We're going to have to reach out to them. So that's a long answer, Joe, to your question. And does that? Churches will remain. St. Elizabeth, St. Anthony's, St. Patrick, St. Thomas, St. Joseph. But the parish will be a new entity. Questions? Yes. But this continues, our history can continue to evolve just in a new direction, a new way. And I would rely on each of the parishes through a committee, you know, to work on your history, to be able to share your history with the other churches, so that we can know. One of the best things that ever happened when I found out, after I got off the floor, after I found out the Bishop has asked us to do this, but I did here at St. Anthony's, we have what's called Chowder and Chat. It's during Lent, they come together. We come together for like a half-hour talk and a chowder, which is very good. I did the talk 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's actually on our website, of the history of all the churches. I mean, it was only like a 20-minute, 25-minute talk. It was fascinating. It was fascinating. St. Joseph's, fascinating history. All of them, Magansett, fascinating. And I didn't know anything about that. I was here at St. Anthony's. I was as guilty as everyone else. I came into my little place that I was assigned 6 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever it is now. And I wanted to know everything about St. Anthony's, so I learned everything I could. Oh, St. Patrick, oh, that's the one downtown. That's the only way I could define St. Pat, oh, the one downtown. North Falmouth, where is it? I don't even know where it was. So I'm as guilty as everyone else that we got into our little comfortable places and we stayed there. And I think that what we're being asked to do now is just say, how can we expand to bring in everyone to share our histories? We're proud of our communities. We're proud of St. Anthony's, St. Elizabeth, St. Patrick, St. Joseph, what a rich history. St. Thomas, I'm learning a lot about now. We need to share that with one another, not just keep it to ourselves. I don't know, Laura and Joe, any insight from, maybe you can, now if you use that, will it also hear it?
Yeah, they should be able to speak close to it. Okay. Ultimately, when I was looking through these, the ministries you have, and we sit with parishes all the time, right? I mean, you have KFC, Seasons of Hope.
We can't hear you, Joe.
Okay, take this, Joe. Use them both. Use them both.
Stereo? Okay, we'll go stereo. Okay. One of the things we see when we sit with parishes, we don't see the vibrancy sometimes of what you have here. Seasons of Hope, Brazilian, the children's, the pro-life, weddings. I did a wedding here this summer. I mean, it was just beautiful. The prayer shawl, St. Vincent, women's and men's club. I think I didn't even get all of them, but they're vibrant in that there is something here. They might not be, as you said, Father Marcia, they might be declining a little bit, and you look at the ages of people, that might be just, you want to bring in new people. What unification does for a parish, and I'm involved in a collaboration in my parish that I work with in Boston, it makes it better. It makes it better, there's no question, because everyone's excited about getting more involved in the parish. And you know, in Falmouth, you might not know people across the town. You might not know everybody at St. Patrick's. They might not know everybody here at St. Anthony's. But when you start doing ministries to the town of Falmouth, that's when I think you'll find it a real exciting aspect of unification. And it's really about the ministry. It's really about our call to evangelize, our call, our baptismal call. It's going right back to your baptism to say, how do I represent Christ in my life? And I think sometimes we do get caught up in the money and the little numbers, but ultimately that's what I think this will do for the town and do for your do for the spiritual life here in Falmouth, is that it will make it bigger and better, even in a pandemic. Is that preaching enough, Father?
No, that's great. You know, I think sometimes it's important for us to hear outside voices. We're maybe a little bit too close, but they're seeing what's happening throughout the diocese and the direction where we're going to be in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think rather than watching this, rather than just watching this, it's coming, and we're trying to run ahead of it, let's embrace it and move with it. And kind of own it, where I have seen too many parishes and that have become collaboratives, but parishes that would not let go, and they just collapsed. And I don't want to see that happen to any of them, any of these three parishes. They'll just collapse. And maybe they won't collapse in a year or two, but they're going to collapse if we keep going in the direction we're going right now. it's just inevitable. I know people have, Vincenza, who might be coming on, she had another meeting, but she was talking about, she does some surveillance, I guess, at Cape Cod Church. I still have to talk to her about that, but it's vibrant. And I'm friendly with Pastor Ben over there. We connect. But it's a very different community. They have one service. We have 8 or 10. And we haven't even brought up a lot of people say we don't have a lot of young people anymore. They are. It's just in our town, young people are just not as prevalent anymore. It's not the way it was 20 years ago in Falmouth. The numbers have dropped. But we still have a decent program of 250. Because of the pandemic, it probably would have been closer to 3. That's a very good program by the standards in the diocese. Oh, and here's the situation. John and our office as well. In the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'd say, we have had requests for how many, not baby baptisms, young children between the ages of like 4 and 12. How many? So between the new ones and the ones that can you guys hear me? I'll repeat it. Between the new ones and the ones that we already kind of knew about, it's over 10. So we have 10 young people between the ages of 4 and 12 or so that parents are coming to our parishes and saying, I want to have my child baptized and become a member of the Catholic Church. We're receiving into the church at the Easter Vigil a young man who's in 8th grade who approached us a year ago and said, I want to be a Catholic. So there's good news.
That's not happening in every parish.
No.
It's not happening.
I think while I was
That's
thinking
what I'm
of this.
looking at.
And one of the sad things is, I don't want to say sad things, it's a blessing, and because we're split into 3 churches, we did the ceremony because the young man came from this area. We did the ceremony here, but it was only one Mass. So one Mass saw this young man standing up and saying, I want to be a Catholic. You don't know about that at St. Elizabeth's. You don't know about that at St. Patrick's. So we have to work, as John said, we have to work better at communicating, using media to say, hey, there's good things happening. There really are good things happening in Falmouth, in our 3 churches. And stop moving. I mean, we call them anyhow. We call St. Elizabeth Seton Church. It will still be St. Elizabeth Seton Church. The parish will be St. Paul. There you go. Okay. St. Paul. Good idea. Good idea. So, but that's what we have to. We got to get the message out there. You're not losing your churches. You're not. Yes. Well, because we're starting right here. See, in a normal setting, we would have had already probably several, what do they call them? Oh, the assemblies. You know how we did those assemblies a few years ago when we kind of started this process? We can't do it now because of the pandemic. So my thought was I'd start with the leadership. You would eventually, when we can start having meetings, going back to your groups and sharing it. Yes, I have to ultimately get up and talk about this to the parishes. But right now, we're in such, the only place we can do it beyond the walls is here because of the live stream. The other parishes, I'll talk to 35 people in church. but there's thousands outside the church that won't hear the message. So we're having a problem right now because of the pandemic. But that would be the next kind of step, I believe. Maybe Laurie, you can talk to that a little. The next step would be is getting it now out to the community. But I wanted to start with you people, and I mean this sincerely because I respect you as leaders, because I know many organizations now, as I saw in these things, no one wants to be in charge. No one wants to be the president. No one wants to be that. So I know the challenge you all have in your different groups, but I wanted to start with you because I respect that role of leadership. And once we get kind of on the same page here, I trust that you will go back to your groups when your groups meet with the same message. Now, you could go back and say something else, but that's on you. I know what I've said, and I know we've had a chance to talk about it. So now it's to go back to your groups and share this hope.
Yeah, so can everyone online hear me okay? Yes? Okay. So yes, the pandemic makes communication a little bit harder, a little bit, because usually we would be having big meetings and talking to hundreds of people. When we did this in Attleboro a couple of years ago, I had 700 people at Bishop Stang come, and we did a big presentation. The parish council did a big presentation. So we had to get a little creative. I think here it was really important to Monsignor that leadership was aligned and on board and all questions were answered before going sort of the next step, which would be communicating it more broadly. Because, and I agree with them, if you don't have your leaders up to speed and aligned and don't feel comfortable, then it's sort of doomed from the start. And we really want to make sure that everybody feels good, has their questions answered. We didn't do a merger, but we had a couple parishes join together sort of as linked parishes under two pastors. Actually 3 parishes under 2 pastors. And we did that during the collaborative, and it was primarily Zoom meetings with the parish council. And then we ended up sending out letters to everyone to sort of announce what was going on. Not crazy about it, but was sort of our only option. We were working with a retired priest who was going to be gone in a few weeks, and that was the easiest way to sort of get the word out. I do think anything we can do because you have the capabilities here in the other place, you're so blessed to have the technology I'm sitting here going, you have better technology here than that we have in the planning office. We'll have to think about the right channels and the right way to get the word out in a way that feels consistent and that everyone feels on board and everyone feels open to share their thoughts, questions, what have you. But I agree, it's going to be the most important part, and hopefully something we can work with you all on ways that will work for your membership as well as for all the parishes, the parishioners. Yes?
In our parish, as opposed to some of the others you might be working with, it's important for these decisions to be made now before we get to the summer.
Yes.
Because this is not a summer parishioner decision.
No.
Correct. So just so that I don't think everybody could hear, the comment was that it seems really important to get this done now because we want this to be something that's driven by the parishioners that are here all year and not necessarily by the summer parishioners that we love, but that are only here for a few months out of the year. So that is going to be really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to do, like if you're in business, you have to make sure the infrastructure is in place. One of the things we've tried to do to build up the opportunity to reach out to others is the census. Now, the census, we have to send another letter because not everyone responded to the census. And that will give us a way to send emails, texts, or video if need be, or just a regular letter. And I would think one way that we would start getting the message out would be at some point, once we get kind of go through the official channels of the diocese and the bishop says, yes, I think it's time to proceed in this direction, then we would send a letter to all parishioners, would probably be the basic way I would do it in the pandemic, and just say that we are moving towards this. The next steps would be, you could explain them better than I would, but before we even get to those steps, are there other concerns? I really mean this. This is those who are on Zoom or those who are here in the church. Concerns that you might have. We've talked about the finances. I think that's pretty much been understood. We are not taking, there isn't one taking money from the other and all that. But overall management, the organizations, I think the task for each leader in an organization, I would hope, maybe it's in the ideal world, maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish or whatever, but there's two women's clubs right now, that the two women's club leadership get together and create a women's club for the new parish, where you meet, how you do it, you decide, you figure it out, so everyone has a say in it. Sure, you have to do some creativity, men's club, I think, does scholarships. Women's club in St. Anthony's does scholarships, and St. Elizabeth. So the question becomes, can we provide scholarships for the community, the parish community? See, I think my concern is that if we start each group raising money for one particular parish, one particular church, I should say. Now, you might give a donation to assist one particular church in, someone had mentioned the women's club at St. Elizabeth. I want to put rails to go up for the reading, go up in the sanctuary. I want to put a rail so someone can hold on to when they're going up, because I know those steps for some people become a little difficult. That would be a great project, that a collaborative men's club, a women's club, a boys club, a girls club could give money towards that. It doesn't mean you can't give money towards one particular church project, but it does mean that as a whole, we're looking at how can we best service the community, the Falmouth community, irregardless of where we meet, but so that's one thing I wanted to mention. But other things that, Joe? What's the overall target date? The target date, I'm sure some want it to happen tomorrow. No. I think we have to communicate to people. Where I'm a little evasive is because of this, I'll say darn, pandemic. If the pandemic was off the table, I would easily say probably by early summer. And maybe we can still attain that. It's not going to change mass schedules. It's not going to change. You can sit in your same pew. None of that's going to change, except to St. Thomas. You're not going to sit in your same pew because we're going to do some renovations down there. But none of that will change. A target date for me, I would like to, I'm talking personally, but there's people online that are shaking their head, I'm sure, because they want it earlier. I'm saying I would be happy with, don't yell at me, guys. Jim, Steve, don't yell at me. On mute. I can't hear you. Steve John, no. I would like to see it by September. But if it could be earlier, by June, that'd be great. But I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to do it quickly, but not, I want to do it well. And again, I know we're never going to have everyone on board 100%. But I think we have to start moving towards that. So if I was to give a target date, I would certainly say by September. Long way of saying, I talk a lot, but long way of saying, hopefully by September, we could do it. And if we can't, we move it to October. There's nothing that's saying we have to do it for a certain time. But I think it is important, Joe, that we do have a target that we aim for. And I think one of the things, maybe, Laura, maybe you could explain some of the
Can you repeat
things
the
that would
question?
need to happen. Excuse me?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Lou was saying that she was agreeing that September would be pretty good date because it's the beginning of school year. It kind of is a new year for many people. Groups start meeting, et cetera. And it would give the rest of this year and the summer to start, looking at bylaws, looking at, okay, what are we going to call this group? How are we going to have a recruitment day? I think if you try to do that now in the middle of a pandemic, I just don't think it's up. But could now be the time you start doing the infrastructure? You start looking at how we can organize. But Laurie, maybe you could speak a little bit of some of the practical things that would have to be done.
So next steps would be, just immediate next steps would be, if this is sort of the direction that everyone sort of, closer to my mouth, okay. If the next steps would be getting probably a committee together to think about timing, names, all the tactical stuff. You could submit a letter to the bishop now when that's all done for his review. I will tell you, it has to be signed by every single member of the parish council. The bishop will not look at letters coming just from pastors. He wants parishioners involved and signed on. And usually around that time is the time we do broader communication out to the parishioners, because we have to give parishioners, like there's a canon law, something like a month or two to make sure there's feedback and time for questions and all that. So those can sort of be done in tandem. When I did that big presentation, we shared with people like, this is the direction we're going to be headed, or we think we'd like to head, and the letter is sitting with the bishop for review, and this is an opportunity to ask your questions to make sure you feel comfortable. And then if really up to the councils to decide exact timing, what it looks like. At the end of the day, if mass schedules stay the same, the only thing that really changes for people in the pews is the name on the envelope. But I will tell you that I keep telling him he needs to cut down mass schedule. I know people don't like that, but it's really, really challenging, especially when you're relying on 90-year-old priests to help you. We had an incident in one of our other parishes where it was one pastor with 2 retired priests, and both of them said, as soon as COVID came, they said, nope, we're not doing mass anymore. And now we have one guy with 3 churches and just him. And, that's the reality. So I would love to, at some point, figure out what the mass schedule looks like that's realistic, but also keeps in mind, it's you and Father Healy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as far as mass schedules, we've been blessed to have the retired priests, so we will keep that going. but always in mind. And that's one of the reasons why you might hear people say, you know, how you used to book masses a year in advance. We're not doing that. We're doing it only like 6 months in advance because we might have to cut down that schedule a little bit. Bill?
You want to use the microphone?
Okay, why don't you, John, why don't you?
My name is Deacon Bill Hayes. My thought on this is we need to be looking at a one-unit outfit, what the new parish is. So I think that we're doing this backwards. I think we ought to have a group to come up with some names and talk about it, decide on what this parish is going to be called, and begin there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the, I mean, we have to, first of all, get the bishop's approval. So we can't just do this on our own, but. Oh, okay. So I think the next step we would use would be, the next step that we would use would be when we have our next pastoral council meeting, which would be probably in September, in February. At that time, then we would kind of go through step 1, step 2, step 3. This would now go kind of to the parish council to make this happen. Deacon? Yeah.
Deacon Paul Harney. Something I want to throw out there is that I believe our fiscal year is July 1st. I'm thinking July 1st is a good target because not much is going to get done in July and August. I think it's one of the busiest times of the years for me. Just something to throw out there. I don't think it's, might be good to have an end date and then work backwards depending on the number of steps that we need. So I just wanted my 2 cents worth.
Oh, Jim's very excited about, yeah, a big smile, Jim Quinn, yeah, okay.
Thank you, Deacon Paul. Thank you very much, sir.
And look, Steve Johnson, they're all, yeah, yeah, I know. How much did he pay you for that, Paul, to say that?
It's in the
No, I
mail,
mean,
Paul.
I'm
It's in the mail.
I'm being very honest, both Steve and Jim, who have been very supportive and have been the co-chairs of the parish council, look to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but sooner than later. And I'm sure they were probably a little disappointed when I said September. I'm just more of a realist. And I'm just trying to say we're still working through a pandemic. We're still going to run parishes. We still got funerals. We still got weddings. We still got, and you know, this will take extra time because I want to be part of the process. I don't want to just say, okay, fine. So that's kind of, guys, why I'm a little reserved. But I think when we have the next pastoral council meeting, that would be a discussion for the pastoral council to see exactly what we need to do and then realistically say, can we do it in June? Can we do it in June? If we can, all right, I'm not against it. I just don't want to give us a date that then now we're so, you know, driven that everything else has to stop. Lorraine? Yeah, these are portables. Oh.
Hold on, Lori. Let me come see you. Make this easy. I'll be the runner. Go for it.
Are all of the churches, do they all have their own wedding coordinators?
Oh, yes. You mean for us? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm coming back.
We have our own wedding coordinators. So wedding coordinators, obviously, anything to do with the liturgical life of a parish maintains their own group. Where you can interact, though, is you can learn from each other. You can share best practices and worst practices. You can even help each other because there are some parishes, I think St. Elizabeth now, you're down to how many? 3 coordinators. And once the dam opens, post-COVID, we have 40 to 50 weddings in the collaborative for this year to next year. They keep postponing them though, so we don't have the exact number. So things still have to maintain in each of the parishes. So the lectors, the Eucharistic ministers, the altar servers. But it was interesting to have an altar server, several, from all 3 parishes. The Langs were one. Ben is St. Patrick's. The Baltasaros from St. Anthony. They said, we'll go to the other parishes and help if you need. That's what I want. You know, so if the 3 coordinate, you know, each parish is different in its structure, but by working together, I think you'll be stronger because you say, I never thought of that. Oh yeah, we can, or, you know, if Father Steve's you know, this is the way he likes it, this is the way Father Ryan likes it, if it's a visiting priest. So you kind of get all that information where right now I have to call 3 different people and say the same thing. Where if it's one team, I can talk to one person and then they coordinate to everybody. Someone else on video? Buonasera, Vincenza. Come stai?
You're muted, Vincenza.
Oh, keep her muted. Keep her muted. That's right. Thank you, Vincenza. Thanks for coming on. She had a meeting tonight.
Yeah, you're still muted.
That's all right. I like it like that. It's very nice.
You're still muted. You're still muted.
Anyone until Vincenza finds her unmute button. Frank, did you have?
While you're figuring out Vincenza, we'll pass on the mic.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah.
Am I on?
See.
Okay, I kind of missed the very, very beginning because I think I came in at almost 7:15. So I kind of missed all of the beginning of all of this. I don't expect you to review it all. So did we discuss the situation with, I feel I'm very glad that we're going to be merging. Hopefully it's going to take place. Did we discuss our GIL, which is very important to me?
No, we didn't discuss any individual groups. What we have kind of come to I think, understanding tonight is that the groups will have to work together and decide how they're going to create a new women's club or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Those who choose not to continue, that's the choice they have to make. But I think it's so important that each group work together, work with the other group. You know, if there's 2 women's clubs or 2 men's clubs or whatever, and try to work together and say, what can we create new? So that's basically what came out of talking about the individual clubs, Vincenza.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Mhm.
Okay, Frank, you have a thought?
I approach this a little differently than all of you. Just by the way, hi Lorraine, I'm Frank. We spoke on the phone. Oh, sorry. I'm Frank. I'm from St. Patrick's Church. Hi everyone. Oh. Hi. 2 things. I approach this a little differently than most of you because I don't have the experience of working within the church that you do. But from a business perspective, when we look at a date, when we set a date, the date can always move backwards. It never moves forward. So it might be a good idea to get a date that's a little bit optimistic with the idea that this is a date, it's a moving target, it could move back. We'll never say, we're ahead of schedule, we're going to push it back 2 months. just as a point of reference. The second thing is, back when we were looking at putting this together, back when we were putting this together, one of the things that I worked on was properties, and I toured all the buildings, all the rectories, all the cemeteries. I have to say, I honestly know every corner of every building in the collaborative. The one thing that we need to keep in mind is this is a personnel issue. We will never have more than 2 priests in this collaborative. It's not going to happen. And even when we talk about retired priests, how much can we count on them? With all due respect, they're wonderful men, but how much can we count on them when we have a snowstorm and something happens? We've got to build this church for our staffing. That's my point.
Anybody else over here? All right, I'm passing it back to Father then.
I think one thing hopefully we gain from tonight, it is multifaceted issue. It's not just a financial issue. It's not just a personnel issue. It's not just, it's affecting all of us. Your groups are struggling to stay going.
Yeah,
It's becoming more difficult to get, volunteers.
Yeah.
And so rather than, just becoming so frustrated and then everyone, you have these meetings, oh, no one comes, and all that. So let's try to start over. Let's try to renew it. That man is you that Deacon Paul has been coordinating. That was a whole new group. That talk about a new wineskin. Didn't exist. And it is taken off. Paul, I think you're a part of it, right? I don't get up in the morning. I'm too, no. I'll be there. I'll be there. Paul thought I wasn't coming because of no donuts, but no, I'm just too tired. I'm just too tired now. But the reality is, here's a group that started fresh. No history, and not all the groups can be that way. But it worked. And that group is made up of men from all 3 parishes, and we even let some of them come from Mashpee, but we let them come, but we let the Mashpee people come. But that's wonderful. Now, and I say this, going back to the image of the wineskins, you might find it easier that you disband and recreate. I'm not going to make you do that. I know one parish collaborative that did. Every group had to end. That might be the only alternative if you have 2 groups that just, we're not going to move, we're not going to change, we're not going to do. Okay, then you have to close. Then we start something new. But my hope is that groups could come together, prayer shawls, women. Now, yeah, you got the issues of where we're going to meet. The people from North Falmouth don't want to drive to East Falmouth. We'll meet on 151. I don't care where you meet, but you work those things out. Like someone mentioned, well, I know with the women, you have an afternoon meeting at St. Elizabeth and an evening meeting at St. Anthony's, right? And,
yes.
And I can see, but in the same voice that I hear, people like the noon meeting because they don't like to drive at night. But then they say, but we want young people, young women. We want, well, they can't come at noon. So you've got to make that choice and say, for the good of building the community, building this organization, what can we do? And so I say for the leaders, I think it's important. And then there are untapped things. I'm just looking at Jane way in the back, that, there are some spiritual groups that meet at St. Patrick that, wouldn't it be great? St. Anthony people don't know half of what's going on there. St. Elizabeth people don't know, you know? How do we get that information out? And it might take a generation. Maybe it'll take more than 3 months or 6 months. But how do we tell people? It doesn't matter what group, or is it easier to start a whole new group? I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. If it's going to be too difficult for people to cross the line because that was that parish's group, then it's probably better that those groups disband and start with a fresh group.
How about doing,
Go ahead, Vincenza.
how about if we even change the day to a Saturday or a Sunday, where that would be open to women, young women that are working during the week. So maybe we could do like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, be totally off the wall.
Right. I think
Don't do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What's the matter with the weekend?
I think the expression is out of the box, not off
Out
the
of-
wall. I'm off the wall.
You're off I'm off the
I'm
wall.
off
If
the
anybody's
wall,
off
but I
the
think
wall,
the expression is out of the box. Thinking out of the box.
right. Why couldn't we do something out of the box?
Under the
You know,
Yes, so I don't want us to forget how many faith formation families came together in the last 2 years. 250 kids. 250 kids. All right, 300 students in faith formation, and all the parents figured it out and worked with a new structure. So, and those are your young families.
Yeah.
They're open to this. They're flexible.
exactly.
Whenever we meet with youth groups, and I'm sure you see this, it doesn't matter where they meet. They will meet you at a Dunkin' Donuts to worship.
Yeah.
They will meet you
Yeah.
at their parish. They will meet you in a gymnasium.
Yeah.
It's, so let's not forget that you've just gone through sort of this type of process already. And the families did it.
When we started That Man Is You, now I'm not advocating this for the women's club, but they meet on Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. All right. And people thought we were crazy. How many people do we have regularly coming? Well, pre-COVID. 20. Okay. Every Saturday morning, between 30 and 40 before COVID at 6 in the morning. Donuts were good, though. Yeah. But again, it is thinking outside of the box
Right.
and saying what we look at the needs, and then we try to adapt the organization to the
Excellent.
needs.
Yeah.
And I think the men's club has a great history in that group that used to do odd jobs for people.
Yeah.
All right. That arose because there was a need and you responded to the need. So now we're asking on a bigger level, how do we respond to the need of this community in 2021?
Find a need and fill it.
Based on from what we heard from the surveys too, a lot of groups are willing to write new bylaws, new guidelines, and they think this is the perfect time to start over with, brand new information. So that was a positive thing that I heard. People want to start over, and they feel that some of these bylaws haven't been touched in years, and now's a good time to start over. So I thought that was a positive thing.
Before I sit down, anybody else? Comments?
Laura, where do we go from here? Because I think we're...
Say that again.
I just want to say to Laura, where do we go from here? I wanted to use tonight as a real opportunity to answer any concerns. Is this going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy. It really isn't. But if we're committed to it and we're working together, it will be. It will be easier. Let's put it that way. Is it going to be challenging? Are we going to deal with a lot of fake news? Are we going to deal with, people just, stomp their feet and saying, I'm not going to do that? Well, we are. But I also think there's so many people out there that we need to tap. Joe?
You think, but.
Talking about the fake news, and one of the ladies brought something up earlier, and it kind of, I don't think got addressed. I think you or someone needs to stand up in the pulpit and say some of the things that you've said tonight, that the church will remain. It will stay St. Elizabeth's Church, because nature abhors a vacuum. And that's where rumors start.
And I'm happy to do that. The reason, and I'm happy to do that. The reason why I haven't at this point is I really was still waiting to get a sense, are we ready to move in this direction? The parish council back in October said, time to move. My thought was bringing in leadership. I think I'm hearing from you tonight. Time to move. So now I will meet with Laura and Joe and Deacon Joe and get a sense, okay, how do we do, and again, I'm a little concerned because of COVID. So how do we do this? Do I decide one Sunday I'm going to do this? I can't physically be at every mass, so there we run into that problem because of so many masses. Do we do it by letter? Do we do it by video? Do we, but I agree with you. And what would be helpful, and I think this could come from parish council as maybe a homework for parish council members who are listening tonight, that you come up with, what do I need to address? Like you mentioned about the churches. The churches are going to stay open. The churches are going to keep their name. Et cetera, et cetera. So if the pastoral council would help me what issues I need to address, then we can figure out how to do it with such a spread out number of masses.
And
That's good.
yeah, and just to weigh in, I know it's something Jim had mentioned when we spoke earlier. There's a big piece we haven't talked about, and that's the sort of benefits, right? Like I think part of that communication needs to be, here's what's in it for you. Like focused on, here's what's in it for you as a parishioner, here's what's in it for you as a Catholic, here's what's in it for you as, building a stronger community and spirituality. I think all of those things need to be shared. And when we think about communication channels, I don't think it's just one, right? Because we're gonna reach some people on live stream, we're gonna reach some people in mass, we're gonna reach some people on the website, we don't know. But trying to get the same message out in lots of different ways is gonna make sure that, it's shared. And it's gonna be a challenge given that you'd sort of wanna share it the same Sunday with everybody. And it just goes to the fact that, there's one Monsignor,
Yeah, my thought would be maybe someone like Mary Lou, who, did the chamber work for many years at Mashpee. And no, not you doing it, but a few people, we have a think tank and we figure out how can we communicate. We pick a date and then we either blitz with a letter, an email, a video on the website, bulletin, and talk about it at masses. Yes. Yeah, Mary Lou mentioned, just telling for the people in virtual world out there, the importance of putting it in writing. And I always feel that's important because when you're at an AMBO speaking, Sometimes people have difficulty hearing, or they hear half of it. I mean, I've mentioned, please pray for someone who's sick, and they're dead by the time they get to the back of the church. You know, he said he died. He died. It happens. So fake news. But I agree with you. It has to be a written video, but then the personal touch as pastors standing up there. Right. So that's something I would rely on people like you, not exclusively you, but a few of you to say, Frank, you know, to do that. But that would be a parish council thing. Yeah, that's the challenge of the pandemic. Paul? Mhm. Right. Mhm. Right, that's a good idea. Yeah, and not necessarily be, I think that's a very, April brought up the point of, since I can't physically be there, and I mean, between Father Ryan and I, we could probably do it, but I think you tapped on something that maybe you didn't think you were going to be tapping on, but it would be great to hear members of the pastoral council representing the people. So that's something we can deal with once we get to the pastoral council meeting next month, that we could talk about, you know, maybe someone at each mass, you know, could give a prepared text that we would put together. It's a good idea. It's excellent. Laura, anything else before we? Pentecost. Yeah, look at Jim Quinn is smiling at Pentecost. Why don't we do it Easter Sunday? Don't you? Yeah, I know Jim wants that one too. Yeah. Ash Wednesday, yeah. I know this has been extremely helpful for me. I hope it hasn't been frustrating from you and those of you who are listening online. The purpose was not now to turn off your computers and go home and ask all of the questions that really should have been talked about tonight. I'm hoping that we've addressed as many things as possible. I'm sure we have more things that we need to address, but I hopefully we've done that to a point that you can walk away and say, I think this can happen, and it will be good. We can make it good, and I think we will be stronger together. I'm just so confident that you know, but it's growing pains. It's a little bit of growing pains that we're going to be dealing with. But I think if we support one another, we can make that happen. So parish council will send to the parish council members a time that we can meet. I'd probably be early February. I need to do that before Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday comes up in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I can give you the brief preview that we're going to do is, because we haven't done Ash Wednesday under COVID yet. So we got to create. So we're thinking, unless I get my hand slapped on this, that we'll be distributing ashes by a Q-tip, making the sign of the cross on your forehead, and then get rid of the Q-tip. So each person, each Q-tip, you know. So, and what we're thinking of doing is having at each parish a mass, but then after the mass, an extension of time. So like say at St. Elizabeth, there's a 9 o'clock mass. So we'd have a mass. At the end of the mass would be distribution of ashes, but then we will remain and we'll tell people we'll be there for another hour. So if someone wants to come just for ashes, they can. And during that hour or hour and a half, one priest will be available for confessions. So it'd be kind of like one-stop shopping you know, that we kind of get it all done. So, so that's what we're looking for Ash Wednesday. We're hopefully getting a couple of programs during the Lenten season. We're going to keep going, with or without. And well, I don't think we're doing, I don't know. A virtual chowder and chat isn't, yeah, so it'd be no chowder and chat. No, make your own chowder at home. I think the people would prefer if they just make the chowder here and don't have a chat, but that's just my thought. All right, I'm going to call it a night unless anyone has any other.
I just want to thank everybody for their participation and letting us interview you. And my thoughts after hearing all of this is once we're done with this unification and everybody comes together, I think we're all going to feel very rewarded by the end result. So.
And I think we're going to, I agree with you, Steve. I think we're going to feel rewarded because we are creating it. We are building this. We're not being handed something and say, you have to do this. So that's why I'm really relying on everyone, the organizations, start thinking about how you can work with, if there's a women's club or whatever, or look at your own club, how you can start looking at bylaws that would be more reflective of a community in Falmouth. And then you work out the details on, you know, like you want to still meet at St. Elizabeth's, that's fine. Doesn't matter, you know. So you figure out stuff like that. All right, I'm going to say good night to all of you and thank you very much. We'll talk, Steve Johnson and Jim, we'll talk maybe tomorrow about setting a date for pastoral council, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Father.
Thank you
Father.
all very,
Thank
very much.
everybody.
God bless you all. Let's end with a prayer just for a moment as we celebrate this time together in the presence of the Lord. We also ask the Lord bless our nation in this time of transition. Bless our new president and vice president and bring peace to our nation. May this new beginning be a new opportunity for us to really reflect the values that are so deep within us, the values of our nation, one nation under God. Amen.
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 Take care, everyone. Good night. Safe
Night.
home.
Thank you, Father. Good night.
Or safe. Now you can take out your glasses of wine and finish them at home. There you go. Yeah, that's the advantage. They can go have wine. I have to go across the park. Good night, everyone. God bless you.
Good night.